2 weeks into Trump's impeachment acquittal celebrations, he's kicked things up a notch, making use of his presidential pardon power. Yesterday, he granted clemency to 11 people, among them former San Francisco 49ers owner Eddie DeBartolo Jr., legendary junk bond king Michael Milken, former New York Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik, who served under Giuliani, former Bush aide David Safavian, and former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, a Democrat who tried to sell Obama's Senate seat, but also once happened to be a contestant on Trump's Celebrity Apprentice.
We want to express our most profound and everlasting gratitude to President Trump. I'm a Trumpocrat.
The Trumpocrat, that's right.
Are you going to vote for him?
If I have the ability to vote, I'm going to vote for him.
Many of those given pardons and commutations were convicted of conspiracy, fraud, obstruction of justice, lying to Congress. And if those charges feel familiar, they may be because they're the same ones a number of Trump associates have been convicted of in connection with the Russia investigation, including former Trump campaign advisor Roger Stone. His sentencing, as you know, is still on for tomorrow against the backdrop of the president's nonstop tweeting about it, like yesterday, when he declared, quote, "Everything having to do with this fraudulent investigation is badly tainted and, in my opinion, should be thrown out." I guess it's worth a try. After Trump's previous tweet calling the sentencing recommendation for Stone, quote, "disgraceful," was followed just a few hours later by Attorney General Barr overruling his own prosecutors and recommending a shorter sentence. Both the White House and the Justice Department, of course, denied Trump swayed that decision in any way, but Barr did urge the president publicly to stop tweeting about DOJ cases last week. And this week, reports indicate the AG is considering stepping down, a rumor Trump's been trying to downplay.
I think he's doing an excellent job. He's a strong guy. I never spoke to him about the Roger Stone situation. Just so you understand, I chose not to be involved. I'm allowed to be totally involved. I'm actually, I guess, the chief law enforcement officer of the country.
Technically, that would be Barr, but never mind. But after the whole Stone debacle, and only did the entire team of prosecutors resign from the case, with one quitting the department altogether, more than 2,000 former DOJ employees have signed on to a letter calling for the AG's resignation. Among them is former U.S. Attorney Carmen Ortiz, who joins me now. She served under Barack Obama and successfully prosecuted Jahar Tsarnaev and Whitey Bulger, among others. She's now with Anderson and Krieger LLP. It's good to see you. We're also joined by former U.S. Attorney Michael Sullivan, who was appointed by George W. Bush, successfully prosecuted the shoe bomber, worked with Bob Mueller at the DOJ, is now a partner with the Ashcroft Group. It's great to see you, Michael. Thanks so much for being here. You signed the letter. Why, Carmen?
I signed the letter because I believed in what the letter said. And primarily it was not just seeking Barr's resignation, which the letter states is very unlikely, but it was also to support the line prosecutors and the department in this endeavor.
What did he do that caused you to think he had crossed the line to the point where he should be resigning, he being Barr?
Believed that he was politically influenced to make the decisions that he made in terms of interceding in that sentencing recommendation.
Some Republicans signed that letter. You did not, Michael Sullivan. Why not?
No, I applaud Attorney General Barr for doing what he did. He came to a determination that the sentencing recommendation far exceeded the overall purpose of sentencing, and he did what he should have done. Whether it's somebody the president knows or doesn't know, he intervened. Most of those intervention takes place before the sentencing recommendation becomes public. In this instance, the sentencing recommendation already became public.
But is there any doubt in your mind that the actions on Stone and then later to take another look at the Flynn case, General Flynn, were presidentially inspired, whether you think that's right or wrong? Any doubt of that?
I don't think it was presidentially inspired at all.
You think it was just coincidental that Trump president tweets and lo and behold, hours later,
of course,
he decides to change the sentencing recommendation?
I have every reason to believe it was coincidental. Both Attorney General Barr, who people that know him best have a great deal of admiration and respect for him, said he's a person of integrity, said I had no involvement with the White House, and the president has said the exact same thing. The Attorney General came to an independent determination that the sentencing recommendation far exceeded its purpose. He has a duty to essentially intervene.
How many times that happened in the case you were involved in? With the
none that I recall where they intervened after the fact. But there are a number of them that we had disagreements with the department.
How many times ever happened to you after the fact?
Zero.
Zero.
And you know why? Because the department, especially in high-profile, important cases, they know and they collaborate and they communicate with the local offices. So this was not new news. I think what might have been new news was how displeased the president was at the recommendation that had been not just announced. This wasn't a leak. This was a filing in court that was made. And then it's not just an actual conflict. Even the appearance of improper political influence is what has played here.
Michael, even if it turns out, I mean, obviously you have a difference of opinion as to whether or not there was political influence here. But for argument's sake, take your position that there was not. Is this not a problem for people who, like, for example, used to work for you in your department, in your office in Massachusetts, when the boss above, after the fact, decides, even if it's an independent decision, that they're going to publicly really humiliate these people, which they did?
I'm not sure that they publicly humiliated the people. The fact that somebody within the department disagrees with your sentencing recommendation of an employee of the Department of Justice, there's no humiliation
there. But you guys said it never happened. How can it not be?
Well, it never happened
after
because
the
we
fact,
had
0 and 0.
Well, we had good lines of communication. I don't know if that were the case here. You had an acting U.S. attorney. You had a lot of other important matters that were occurring. I take the Attorney General at his word.
Do you know that the same person who signed the original sentencing recommendation, the supervisor, is the exact same one who the next day signed the new position, or essentially overruling the thing that she had signed the day before?
Could have been that they were at odds.
You know, there's one other thing that's going on, well, a number of things on the national level with the DOJ. As you know, there's some special channel for reporting from Rudy Giuliani about Ukraine to the Department of Justice. And I have to say, what I find odd about that is not that there's a special channel. He is somebody trusted by the President of the United States. But he is currently under investigation, Giuliani, by the office that he ran, the Southern District of New York. Do you find that odd, or is that just a special and reasonable accommodation made for someone the President trusts?
Well, I'm not sure if the U.S. attorney there is involved or has recused himself, but I don't find it odd at all, because if you recall, Southern District is investigating not only that particular case involving Giuliani. I think they have ongoing investigations involving the president and his financial dealings. Remember, they're the office that immunized his financial advisor for many years.
If you were investigating, this is for both of you, Rudy Giuliani, and you found out that further up the chain in Washington, the same guy you're investigating has a special channel into the Justice Department on issues relating to Ukraine, that wouldn't trouble you as the U.S. Attorney of Massachusetts? No?
Well, it would bother me, but I think when you look at these investigations, there'll be a number of individuals that are involved, as well as the agency, the FBI as well.
Would that worry you?
Not just one sole person.
Or no?
No, I think as long as there are proper safeguards. And listen, let's put it in perspective. First off, an investigation does not mean somebody has committed a crime. In fact, even when somebody's been charged, there's still a presumption of innocence. You know, the fact of the matter is he hasn't been charged with a crime. He hasn't been convicted of a crime. He has a special relationship with the president. He has some information about the Ukraine that might be somewhat unique.
Okay, so let's move to somebody who not only was investigated and indicted, but convicted, who was pardoned yesterday. This is the former governor of Illinois. Here's Donald Trump on the pardon of Rod Blagojevich.
We have commuted the sentence of Rod Blagojevich. I watched his wife on television. I don't know him very well. I met him a couple of times. He was on for a short while of The Apprentice years ago. Seemed like a very nice person. Don't know him. Many people disagree with the sentence. He's a Democrat. He's not a Republican. It was a prosecution by the same people, Comey, Fitzpatrick, the same group.
He was on The Apprentice. I mean, that is an important character. You know that's funny. You can laugh. That is funny.
I've never seen The Apprentice.
Okay, no, neither have I. Well, I just heard that. But in addition to this, he sees his wife on Fox. This guy Pogue, who I never heard of before, tax evasion. His family, son and daughter-in-law, contributed coincidentally $200,000 late last year to the Trump victory, whatever it's called. They don't go through normal channels, through the Department of Justice review. He goes through personal connections. That concern you or no?
It's his absolute power.
Oh, it's his right. There's no question.
United States to do this.
But as a process kind of guy, and I think you are, does that not bother you that it's not the traditional Justice Department process, but watching Fox or somebody who's that trouble you or not?
I'm fine with using a process, but at the end of the day, ultimately, it's the president's call. It's not the people in the process that ultimately make the decision. Listen, President Clinton pardoned Mark Rich.
He did.
Right? Mark Rich gave
On his final day.
on his final day.
Fundraiser for
President
the family.
Trump is doing it before an election. I give the president credit.
But the fact that Rich was wrong, which Clinton eventually admitted, by the way, doesn't mean that these are right. Are you troubled by circumventing the process?
I
on the
am
part of the
very
president?
troubled. I am very troubled that no one is reviewing it, or at least making a recommendation. Mike is right. It's the president's absolute power to pardon or grant clemency, but there should be a process in place. Not everyone is getting a fair shot here. It's his friends, it's individuals who know individuals that he knows and are well connected, and quite frankly, it's all white-collar criminals. In this instance,
Speaking
if you
of white
think
collar,
about that.
can we come back to Massachusetts and a case you initiated? You started the Boston calling prosecution of Braude and Sullivan. As you know, Judge Sorokin the other day, after a jury verdict, said that there is these charges are being dismissed, no personal benefit, no intent to extort. The statute's not satisfied. In retrospect, and obviously it was prosecuted to conclusion, not by you, just started by you. Do you agree with the judge here? Were you wrong to start this proceeding?
Based on the evidence that we had at that point, at that juncture, the lawyers that I worked with and I genuinely believed that we had all the evidence. And quite frankly, the judge from the very beginning didn't view the evidence that way, and he felt that there should be a personal benefit. If you recall, the government appealed that decision, and the First Circuit ruled that it did not have, that the individuals who are committing these crimes don't have to have a personal benefit. That's why the case then again went to trial. At that juncture went to trial.
Before you answer the question, though, do you have pause? Are you regretting in some part this prosecution or no?
Listen, it has played out in a lot of different ways, and I think that I don't regret the process that we went through. I think it was fair and just. You know, the judge made certain decisions, and then you had the First Circuit, then you had a jury, that convicted.
Did she make the right decision? Did Lelling make the right decision, the current U.S. attorney, or did Judge Sorokin make the right decision?
Well, I think I think in their minds they all made the right decisions.
Yeah.
First off, Judge Sorokin never liked the case. That was very apparent. He dismissed it early, gave the government the opportunity to appeal. The government successfully appealed. I give him credit, though. He allowed the evidence to go to a jury. Mm-hmm. So the jury convicted. He then took the conviction away. At least the government can consider an appeal based on these circumstances. He could have directed a verdict before the jury even got it, and the government's ability to appeal would have been lost.
We only have 30 seconds left. Very quickly, there's also another prosecution started yesterday, you know, of a state rep by the name of Nangle. It's an editorial in the Boston Globe talking about how Lelling has started all these political prosecutions, whether it's the state cops going after the mayor of Fall River, and basically the state suggesting the state is behind the eight ball. Well, not behind the eight ball. Should get up to speed and should be going after these corruption cases too. The Attorney General Moore Healey says we care about corruption. Is the editorial right or is Healey right?
No, I think federal government has resources that the state typically hasn't had to allow them to do long-term.
So you're okay with them
cases.
leading the way here?
Absolutely.
Are you?
I am, but I think there could be more state oversight on this.
Fair enough. We got to go.
It shouldn't be left just to the feds alone.
Michael Sullivan, nice to see
you.
you. Carmen, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.